Today, we are diving into something that's really shaking up software development: autonomous coding agents. Now, these aren't just another shiny productivity tool. We're talking about a whole new class of AI teammate that can take a task from a simple idea all the way to a finished pull request. So let's break down what that actually means for you.
And this quote just nails it. It really captures the feeling in the industry right now. This is tech that feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's here today. And figuring out how to work with it effectively, that's quickly becoming an absolutely essential skill for every single engineer out there.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to walk through a kind of mastery journey in 4 stages. First up, we'll properly meet these new AI agents. Then we'll get into the art of delegating work to them. After that, we'll look at how to tackle the really big, complex projects. And finally, we'll talk about the most crucial part: the human. Yep, that's you, and why you're more important than ever.
Okay, let's kick things off by just appreciating how big of a leap we're talking about here. This isn't just a small, incremental update to the tools we're already used to. No, this is a massive shift from AI giving you little suggestions to AI executing entire tasks for you. What's really wild is just how fast this has all happened. I mean, think about it. Just a decade ago, we were excited about autocomplete finishing a variable name for us. Then came copilots, and writing a few lines of code with AI felt like a total revolution. And now, just a couple years later, here we are with autonomous agents that can manage a whole task, soup to nuts. The acceleration is just incredible. And that little phrase right there, minimal human intervention, that is the whole game. See, unlike a copilot that you're constantly poking and prodding, you give an autonomous agent a goal and it just goes. It plans the work, writes the code, runs the tests, and even fixes its own mistakes along the way. And this completely flips the script on the developer workflow. Instead of being heads down, deep in the weeds on one single task, your role starts to look more like an engineering manager. You're defining work, delegating it, and overseeing multiple agents working at the same time. Your job becomes less about the nitty-gritty of how to code something and more about the big picture, the what and the why. So this brings us to what might be the single most important skill in this new world: communication. You have to learn how to delegate work effectively. And the best way to think about it is this: treat the agent not like a machine, but like a really, really smart junior developer on your team. A bit naive sometimes, for sure, but super capable. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because just like with a human teammate, the quality of the work you get back is a direct reflection of the quality of your instructions. If you give vague requests, well, you're going to get vague, confusing results. It's garbage in, garbage out. It pretty much boils down to 4 key rules. First, don't just tell it what to do. Explain how you want it done, especially if it's a tricky bit of logic. Second, point it in the right direction. Tell it where in the code base to start looking. Third, practice what we call defensive prompting. Think ahead about where a junior dev might get tripped up, and clear that up in your prompt. And finally, give it the tools to succeed. Let it run your tests and your linners so it can check its own work. Let's look at a concrete example. Just saying add unit tests is, well, it's an invitation for chaos. But look at the effective prompt. It gives super clear direction, it calls out specific edge cases to focus on, and it even offers a helpful hint about mocking the database. That level of detail is what makes the difference between a frustrating afternoon and a huge success. Okay, so once you've really got the hang of prompting, you can start to move beyond the small stuff. We're talking about graduating from delegating little chores to handing off really significant, chunky pieces of work, the kind of stuff that saves you not just a few minutes, but entire hours, maybe even a whole day. And the return on investment here is just massive. The source material suggests that aiming for an 80% time savings on these big tasks is totally realistic. We're not talking about 100% automation just yet, but what we are talking about is massively slashing the amount of manual work you have to do, freeing you up to focus on the high-level review and strategy. This table gives us the perfect way to think about this new workflow. The AI is your drafter. It does all the heavy lifting of getting that first version done, kind of like a line cook doing all the ingredient prep. Your role as the human developer is to be the sous chef. You come in, you provide that critical feedback, you make the refinements, and you give the final sign-off that ensures everything is top-notch. Now, for these really big projects, you can't just fire and forget. That's a recipe for disaster. The trick is to build in checkpoints. Break the task down into logical chunks. Have the agent tackle the database layer first, for example. Then you stop, you review, you give feedback, and then you set it off on the back-end logic.
This iterative loop is how you keep the project on the rails and stop small mistakes from turning into huge ones.
All right, let's talk about the final and, honestly, the most important piece of this whole puzzle, you. Because for all their incredible power, these agents still have some pretty significant limitations. And your expertise, your intuition, that's the bridge between a messy first draft and clean, production-ready code. It's so important to be realistic about what they can't do well. They're not great at tracking down those deep, tricky bugs that require real intuition. Their visual reasoning is still a bit fuzzy, so they'll struggle to perfectly match a complex design from Figma. And you gotta remember they have knowledge cutoffs, so they might use old, outdated patterns for brand new libraries unless you point them directly to the latest docs.
And here is a piece of hard-won, practical advice. If you see an agent getting stuck in a weird loop, or it just starts ignoring your instructions, don't waste your time trying to argue with it or debug its logic. Seriously, it is almost always faster to just stop, start a brand new session, and give it fresh, clean context.
So when you zoom out, this is the big picture. Coding agents aren't showing up to replace engineers, they're here to amplify us. All that deep technical expertise you've built up over the years, it just became even more valuable because now you can apply it across several projects at the same time. And learning to manage that kind of parallel workflow, well, it's not just a nice-to-have skill anymore, it's becoming absolutely essential.
So we'll leave you with this to chew on. As these amazing AI tools get more and more woven into our daily work, they don't just change how we code. They're changing the very definition of what it means to be a software engineer. It's a massive evolution, and it's an incredibly exciting time to be a part of it. Thanks for tuning in.